The problem is we've actually experienced his experience. We've experienced the massive increase in debt. We've experienced the huge rise in taxes. We've experienced the folly of pretending that boom and bust had been abolished. And this is the argument we will make when the election comes. The risk is not making a change. The risk is sticking with what you've got and expecting things to turn out differently. There is a simple truth for times like these. When you've taken the wrong road, you don't just keep going. You've got to change direction. So let's look at how we got here and how we're going to get out. At the heart of the financial crisis is a very simple fact. The tap marked borrowing was turned on and was left running for too long. The debts we built up were too high. The authorities on both sides of the Atlantic seemed to think it could go on forever. They thought the days of low inflation and low interest rates could go on forever. They thought the asset price bubble didn't matter. But it's not just the authorities who were at fault. Many bankers in the city were quite simply irresponsible. They paid themselves vast rewards when it was all going well, and the minute it went wrong, they came running for a bailout. There will be a day of reckoning, but today is not that day. Today we have to understand the long-term policy mistakes that were made. And in this country, Gordon Brown made two big mistakes. His first big mistake, and in some ways his worst decision, sowing the seeds of the present financial crisis, was actually contained within his best decision, which was to make the Bank of England independent. Let me explain. At the same time as giving the Bank of England the power to set interest rates, a really good move, he took away the Bank of England's power to regulate financial markets. And he took away the Bank of England's power to blow the whistle on excessive debt. So he changed the rules of the game, but he took the referee off the pitch. Eddie George, who was governor of the Bank of England at the time, was only given a few hours' notice of this massive decision. He feared it would end in tears, and it has. Gordon Brown's second big mistake was on government borrowing. After a prudent start and sticking to conservative spending totals, he turned into a spendaholic. His spending splurge left the government borrowing in good times when it should have been saving money. So now the bad times have hit. There is no money to help. The cupboard is bare. So the question is, how are we going to get through this crisis? How are we going to rebuild our economy for the long term? Now, I've studied economics at a great university. I've worked in business alongside great entrepreneurs. And as Gordon Brown never stops reminding people, I've been inside the Treasury during a crisis. But when it comes to handling the situation we're in, none of that matters as much as some simple things I believe to be true. First of all, I believe that a government's main economic duty is to ensure sound money and low taxes. Sound money means controlling inflation, keeping spending under control, and getting debt down. So we will rein in private borrowing by correcting that big mistake Gordon Brown made and restoring the Bank of England's power to limit debt in our economy. That will help give our economy the financial responsibility it needs, but we need fiscal responsibility too. So we will rein in government borrowing. You know what that means? The country needs to know what that means. And I think it is a lot clearer now after that fantastic speech by George Osborne on Monday, probably the finest by a Shadow Chancellor there's ever been. sound money means saving in the good years so we can borrow in the bad. It means ending that spendaholic culture. It means clamping down on government waste. It means destroying all those useless quangos and initiatives. So I will be asking all of my shadow ministers to review all over again every spending programme to see if it's really necessary, really justifiable in these new economic circumstances. But even that will not be enough. The really big savings will come from reforming inefficient public services and dealing with those long-term social problems that actually cause the government spending to rise in the first place. And to help us stick to the right course, we will have an independent office of budget responsibility. There will be no hiding place, no fiddling the figures for all governments from now on. It's not experience. And it's not experience that will bring that change about. Experience means you're implicated in the old system that's failed. You can't admit that change is needed because to do so would mean admitting you've got it wrong. We propose a major shake-up in the way public finances are run, and we've got the courage and the character and the judgment to scrap those discredited fiscal rules and make that change happen. It's a change that will help us to get taxes down. I believe in low taxes, and I know that people in this country are crying out for help. Like the young couple I met in Yorkshire a few weeks ago, they're both working 7 days a week and still they're struggling to pay the mortgage. But I am a fiscal conservative. So is George Osborne. We do not believe in tax cuts paid for by reckless borrowing. So let me say this to the call centre worker whose mortgage has gone up by 400 quid a month but his salary's gone down. Let me say this to the hairdresser who's a single mum doing another job on the side, trying to pay those childcare bills. To the electrician whose fuel bill, rent bill, food bill have all gone up just when the tax bill's gone up too and they're wondering which one to pay. I know it is your money. I know you want some of it back. I want to give some of it back to you. It's one of the things that drives me to do this job. But with a real test, the real test of whether we're ready for government is not whether we can come up with exciting shadow budgets. It's going to be whether we have the grit and determination to impose discipline on government spending. It's going to be whether we can keep our nerve and say no, even in the teeth of hostility and protest. That is the responsible party we are, and that is the responsible party that I will lead. Sound money, low taxes, simple beliefs with profound implications. And there's something else I believe about the economy. I believe that people create jobs, not governments. I understand enterprise. I admire entrepreneurs. I should do. I go to bed with one every night.